Hello everyone and welcome back to another video here on Sam's Crafty Castle. So today we are going to do a watercolor repeated stamping background. And I will be the first person to admit this does not come out the way I envisioned it. But you know what? I didn't like it when I first made it. Almost didn't finish making this video, but decided that I would edit it and leave it as like a backup video potentially. But then by the time I finished editing it, was like, okay, that wasn't so bad. I liked it a little bit more, so I ended up deciding to leave it in the schedule where it was. So here we go. So this is a old stamp set from Gina K Designs. This is the stained glass flowers, which is unfortunately retired now, but I had actually been wanting to do a background like this with this stamp set for quite some time, and just finally got around to it because I had the stamp out for a different project and was like, oh yeah, I want to do that background. So I decided to go for it. And although this is not exactly, like I said, it does not come out how I necessarily envisioned it, but it still comes out pretty cool in the end. Although it doesn't, the vibe's a little off, but that's okay. We'll talk about that as we go. But originally, I'm going to talk about my vision versus what happened a lot in this video. So my vision, my idea, was to stamp these all really close together and fit them together in the background like a puzzle. And then like color them with colored pencils or markers or something. But what I ended up doing instead is in the moment, I was like, I want to watercolor something though. And I was like, but I don't really want to watercolor in all of these little shapes because I am not a brilliant watercolor person. So I was like, I can't do that. So I was like, well, you know what? I could like emboss resist, and I think that would still look really cool. So I am currently stamping everything with embossing powder, or embossing powder, no. I'm stamping everything with embossing ink, and I'm going to heat emboss it in white to get like that cool like tone on tone emboss resist thing going on. And then is apparently, clean and simple cards and tone on tone cards are apparently the vibes I'm going for lately. So it's a phase. It'll change. It'll change. But so I'm just heat embossing that. And basically to do the background, I took the biggest flower and I stamped the biggest flower everywhere and then I heat embossed that. And then I did the medium sized flower and heat embossed that. And now I'm going to do the smallest flower and then heat emboss that. So I do it in kind of phases. And I have one flower that just stamped and embossed horribly because you can't see anything I'm doing right now because it's all white on white. But you'll see it at the end, like as I start to color stuff. But there's one flower that just embossed horribly, that stamped horribly and embossed horribly because I twisted my block on accident. And we get to cover that up at the end. So remember that, especially when you're doing a background panel. If you make a mistake, you just go, oh, okay, we just cover that up. That's where my greeting goes. That's where something else goes. Like, that's the beauty of card making. You make a mistake and you just put something over it. Nobody is ever the wiser unless you tell them. Like I just did. So, yeah. So now we're just going to heat emboss that. So then I decided to do this watercolor wash. And then I'm going to tell you what happened. I pulled out the watercolors and thought I had this brilliant plan in my head. I wanted to do this blue-gray kind of color combination because I really like that. And I grabbed the tiny brush. I don't know why I grabbed the tiny brush, but my brain just like defaulted to color in all of the little flowers. And then like halfway through, like the second flower, I was like, wait a minute, this isn't what I wanted to do. But I had already started. Oh, the light gets weird here too because I couldn't see with the bright light on, so I had to turn it off and make it so that I could see what I was doing. But I like yeah, I just did the wrong thing. Like I was like, this isn't what I wanted, but it's what I happened, and so I just there we go. That's kind of when I remembered that. All of a sudden, I was like, oh wait. Like when I was starting to pick out which flower I was going to color next, I was like, this was no longer the original idea. Like, I changed my mind. So basically, I changed my mind and then I changed it again and made it way harder on myself. So I don't know why I did that. But you know what? It's all cool. It's all cool. It looks okay in the end. So that's what matters. Um, And mostly I didn't want to do this because I'm not a good watercolor person. I haven't, I mean, practice makes perfect. So good for me for practicing this, but yeah, it just, I don't, I'm still over here like, why did I think that was a, why? um, you know what? We all have our things, guys, and watercolor is not particularly mine. So, but I mean, you gotta do it. If I'm gonna get better at it, I gotta do it. I used to not be able to like color with pencils or markers either, but I can do that now. So, you know, I just gotta keep practicing and not practice because I think it's annoying. So, you know, we'll get there. So yeah, so a lot of this part is just me watercoloring things. I was trying to go for this blue gray theme, I think I said. Um, it's another one of my kind of like go-to color combinations when I don't want to do something that's pink and girly. Blue and gray or blue and brown are my like go-to masculine combinations, and or like primary colors like red, yellow, and blue. Those are my like go-to masculine things. Um, Primary color is more for like the kiddos, and then the blue, grays, and blue browns for the older men in my life. So, yeah. So now we're doing the gray, and I tried not to, I mean, I didn't go super in depth with like how I colored these in. I just kind of tried to make sure the colors were spread out, and I tried to not color any one section of the flowers the same color. So, like where the flowers repeated, I would try to make sure that I didn't have that color in the same spot on the same flower, so none of them quite look the same. Although I will say, see, I wish I would have done different colors. Like, I wish I would have done like a pink, purple, turquoise kind of thing, potentially, with this one, because with the blue and the gray, by the end, they look like snowflakes. But I also decided that's kind of cool because, now I feel like this, I've opened up more possibilities for myself with this stamp set of being able to be like a snowflakey card too. So it's it's all good. It's all good in the end because I didn't want it. I almost did at the end turn it into like a Christmas card or a winter card or whatever, but I was like because it looked like snowflakes, especially because I ended up painting the background blue too. It was like I had decided that I needed to save the whole it was supposed to be a watercolor wash situation. And I just was like, so we paint the background blue. And yeah, but it's all good. I this was the longest video I've made in a while, and it's a lot of me coloring, and I don't really know what to talk about. Um, I can give you I don't know. I don't want to give you watercolor tips because I it's not my strong suit. Um, so I don't know what to say. Uh, I think if I did this again, I'll do this. I think if I did this again, I would maybe do it with watercolor markers instead. Just because some of these, I thought with the heat embossing, especially, it would help with the painting piece because the thing that helps me a lot with watercolor, so I guess I am going to give you some watercolor tips, but the thing that helps me a lot is when I heat emboss stuff because the lines are raised and it makes it a little easier for me to tell when I'm staying in the lines versus when I'm like wandering out of the lines. And I also have a habit of sometimes getting a little too much water going on and getting very watery paint situations, like water drops, I guess, for lack of a better explanation. And it helps keep the water drops contained and it keeps them a little bit more contained to where they're supposed to be when I get too much water going on because the water will make the paint move, which is great when you're doing like a background. And like honestly, okay, I'm gonna admit this right now. Watercolor backgrounds, love them. So much fun. Watercolor actually painting in images, I've started to realize is really not my jam. Um, and which is why I was never supposed to paint these in the first place because I know I get annoyed and I don't love it. So, yeah. But these are it's all okay. It's okay. I it's all good. But yeah, so heat embossing, if you are not a confident watercolorist, is very helpful. It helps me keep a little things under a little bit more control. And you'll see there's some parts where I go out of the lines or the painting gets a little bit messy and everything. But see, and like again, my other tip. This is my tip with anything, okay? Because I'm the worst at this, so that's why I can say it. um, don't knock it till it's done. Everything looks like a mess while you're working on it. Everything looks like it's not gonna come out. That fancy edge dye fussy cut stencil card I did, I halfway through I was like, I give up. This isn't looking how I want it to. And then I finished it and I was like, actually no, you know what? It's fine. Same thing with this one. I was painting away and I was starting to get really frustrated and really mad that I accidentally started the wrong process and didn't actually do just a background like I had intended to. And even when I finished the card, I was still kind of like, but I put it away. I walked away. And I came back a few days later to get pictures and edit this video and all that kind of stuff. And then now, on like the fifth time through of watching this video while I've been editing it and looking at this card, I'm starting to go, okay, it's not that bad. So sometimes you just gotta step away for a little while and then be like, okay, it's not that bad. It's really, really easy to look at something while you're doing it and going, this is going horribly. And then all of a sudden step away from it for a minute. And I don't mean like look away from it and then look back at it. I mean like get up, leave the room, go wash dishes, go make yourself a snack, go do something else, and then come back to it hours or days later. And then you might all of a sudden go, oh, okay, it's not that bad. Like, even, like, yeah. Like, this painting is really not that bad, honestly. So, that's my other tip. That's my tip for any crafting, honestly, or most things in general. Like, sometimes you just need, if you're getting frustrated or upset or whatever, you just need to walk away and do something else. It also helps if you do something else is something that you are very comfortable with doing and you know you can do successfully. I have learned that too. So, that's my tips. So I needed to keep going with this card. A lot of times with watercolor, you kind of need to let it dry before you do anything else, or you will have a mess on your hands. And normally I like to just let it air dry, but I needed to keep going this time. So I was like, okay, we're just gonna heat and emboss it. So now so I actually I'm gonna talk about this a little bit too. So with watercolor, it's important to dry between layers. If you guys used to stress ink at all or watch any of like Tim Holtz's videos and stuff, you know he does that a lot when he's messing with wet mediums and watercolor and stuff like that, because once it's dry, it kind of doesn't do anything, but if it's still wet, it'll do things. So I wanted to do the background, and just in case I got over the lines a little bit, I wanted to make sure that the flowers wouldn't run too badly. So I made sure those were dry before I went ahead and did this into the backgrounds. And then I'm going to heat set this too. Like I said, normally, especially after the background was done and I was like done painting for the day essentially, I would have just let it dry overnight or just even for an hour or two and done something else while it dried. But today, this was the last project I was working on, and I was like, I just need to get this done. So I just heat set it to dry it. And the background is not super, super painted. Like, it almost still looks white on the camera, but it is in fact blue. There we go. See, now that the big lights are back, you can tell that it's blue. Um, and that's it. I mean, that was this card. Again, clean and simple, easy stuff lately. But I'm just going to stamp this Our Friendship is Magic, which is actually the entire reason I bought this stamp set was for that stamp because I love that greeting. And I decided it needed a little, so I put it there because that's where my bad flower is. But I decided it needed something a little bit more to separate it from the background because the background does have quite a bit going on. See, it also looks less like snowflakes to me now on this watch through. So you know. So that's just a scrap of pattern paper I had, and I'm just going to glue that down and then glue the greeting on top of it, which I think I do. I was gonna say I think I use foam squares for that, and I do. And pop that up, and then that's the card. That's it. That's everything. Oh, I forgot I did this. So then, because at this point I was like, it doesn't really matter what I do. It is what it is. So I got out this shimmer spray that I have, which I'll have linked below, that I don't use often enough. It just adds a nice little like shimmery overlay to everything because you just spray it over the top. I wish I would have just done it over the background, but I didn't think of it until after. So that's okay though. It all works out. So that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment down below, and I'll see you again soon. Have a crafty day.